What is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com, and today I am looking ahead to the third PFL show of the season. It's been a good start to the PFL. We had Bruno Capoloza coming back last week, getting a big win. Larissa Pacheco as well, in a very interesting fight with Julia Budd, and we had the first week obviously as well and all of that. But we have, I'd say arguably maybe the two best divisions in the PFL at the moment, although the featherweight division might have something to say about that, and the heavyweight division, all the divisions. But the lightweights and the welterweights are getting underway this week with some familiar names and a couple of new names as well. But we will take care of all of that as we get into it here. This is the last week in this kind of block of PFL, and obviously they will be back in a couple of months' time again with the rest of it, which I think is very interesting. Like, one thing that I meant to mention, I probably have mentioned it in passing all along, but I think they mentioned it on commentary, and the fact that the fighters are fighting so often, I think is very interesting as well, because you look at the tactics of these fights. And it was the light heavyweights especially, I think I was looking at the last thing. Will Fleury obviously fighting out of Ireland here was fighting, and I think he fought very differently than how he normally goes about things, where he was, maybe looking for the finish early when you don't get it, maybe, you try to win, not necessarily try to win the decision then, because you can still get more points for finishing in the second and third round, but I think it does change how you fight. It does adjust things. Like, obviously there's a season long of this, but you see in tournaments along the way when you fight, you fight for different reasons. You fight, one night tournaments, we've seen it before, are in the Dana White Contender Series when you're at the whim of Dana White. Christian Duncan is one of those guys. I thought he fought differently when he went on that show than I saw him in Cage Warriors, and it wasn't good. And you see someone like, say, Brendan Loughnane, who gets a takedown in that, and it's like, oh, he's never any good. He goes out and he gets $1 million out of the PFL season last year, and you know what? He's probably favoured to do it again this year. So it's very, very interesting, and I really enjoy that, because like I love watching the tactics of a fight, right? But we usually watch the tactics of a fight. Let's say we saw, Pereira and Adesanya at the weekend. We're looking at what's Pereira going to do to land these strikes? His big power strikes. What's Adesanya going to do to avoid them? And it's usually the tactics are fighter A versus fighter B tactics. In PFL, it's fighter A versus fighter B tactics, but also fight one of a possible, 4-fight run or whatever it might be. If you're fighting a guy who you think maybe he's very hard to get out of there, maybe you're just surviving that one and try to get the finish in the next fight or something like that. But also, things can happen as well. You might go in there and let's say Will Fleury might fight Christoph Jotko. I'm not sure who he's fighting next time. Let's say he fights, I don't know, Thiago Silva. You beat him as well. You had 6 points at the end of it, and someone else goes in there and they get one knockout against someone maybe not as good as those two lads, and they get 6 points as well. So it's very interesting how you actually go about these fights, how you take up your tactics and all of that, because you could find yourself out of it very, very quickly as well. And that's, I suppose that's the joy of it too, in a way. But I think that will be the case as well here for these two divisions, because they are, as I said, they are very good. As we have done for the last few weeks, let's run you through the divisions and talk about the fighters that are there at the moment on the 2023 roster. Let's talk about welterweight first. Carlos Leal is back. We have David Zawada coming over from Europe to fight in this. A very good fighter, has been around for a long time. Danilo Taylor, which we've seen before. Don Madge up at welterweight now. We have Jarrah Al-Silawi, who has a big fight against Sadibou C this weekend, who's also back. We have Magomed Umalatov, as well as Magomedkerimov, who is arguably one of the best fighters we've ever seen in PFL. And then there's Shane Mitchell there as well. For the lightweights, we have Amir. We have Alexander Martinez, one of the guys to me who stood out last year in terms of how fun his fights are and how good he was. Bruno Miranda, who's been around a long time as well. Clay Collard, who's stepping up here to fight at lightweight. We have Natan, Schulte, former champion. We have Olivier Aubin-Mercier, last year champion, coming back. Raush Manfio as well, who's been around for a long time. Burgos coming over from from the UFC after signing with PFL to fight here Stevie Ray, who went on a smashing run last year, and Yamato, Nishikawa as well on this roster. Now, I think we've seen it last year as well, that there was a few injuries and a few people fell out and a few people came in, so it's more packed rosters there this year, and I like to see it, and it's very interesting that they have that as well, and they have a lot of big names on it. So let's get into the fights. And look, the first fight that I want to look at here, because it's very interesting that the level of fights, I suppose, on this. I believe that the Sadibou Al-Silawi fight is the main event, but when you look at Aubin-Mercier against Shane Burgos, you'd be thinking, well, is that not the fight? That's the seemingly the one for me. Like, I think it's very interesting, right? Aubin-Mercier and the run he went on last year, how well suited he was to the PFL, because he came in, he won a split decision over Natan Schulte. He beat Raush next time out by decision. He beat Alex Martinez by decision as well. And he won a lot of these fights, kind of at his ease, really. And by the time he got to the finale and he took on Stevie Ray, Stevie Ray had gone through a couple of tough fights. He had to really win his way there, going in against Pettis. And Aubin-Mercier seemed to be a lot... I suppose a lot more primed and ready for it, if you want to put it that way. Like, it helped him almost to get there, whereas Stevie Ray probably took a lot out of him to get there, if you get what I mean. And some people, it just really suits them. I think a Loughnane, it really suited him last year. Like, when Rory McDonald came in, I don't think it really suited him. And now for Shane Burgos, what's it going to be like? Because there are certain fighters that get, you tell me I have 3 fights in the next fucking 2 months, and they're going to be absolutely delighted. They're going to be delighted. You tell someone else they have 3 fights in the next 3 years, and they're going to be like, well, that sounds a bit much, But to look back at maybe Burgos and what he has done over the last while, he does seem to be a guy, like, it's not always going to happen, but he had 3 fights he was due to have 3 fights in 2021. He ended up only having 2 fights. It's tough as well around the pandemic and everything like that. He had 2 fights in 2019, 2 fights in 2018, 2 fights in 2017, 2 fights in 2016, 3 fights in 2016, and you're going back then, obviously to before his UFC time. Fought once last year, was supposed to fight again against Marlon Moraes, but that obviously didn't happen after fighting twice as well in 2021, as I mentioned. Like, I don't know is the answer to the question on that one, right? I don't know if it will suit him or if it won't suit him, and that's a big question coming in here. And the odds, when you look at it, I think the odds suggest that as well. Burgos is the underdog. He's plus 135. And Aubin-Mercier is the favourite at minus 165. And I think that is probably just about right. Like, it's funny, both of these guys came over from the UFC. And in the UFC, they were seen both, I think, as good fighters, but maybe never as fighters who were in the short term going to reach a certain level. Now, Burgos, I think, was probably getting there by the time maybe he went from the UFC, and Dana White was, spoke about wanting to keep him and all of that, which is fair enough. But I think, given the opportunity, they both have the ability to do it. Now, Aubin-Mercier has already been given that opportunity, and he showed he has the ability to do it. Like you say, someone like a Shoefest a couple of years ago, the same thing. Look at Loughnane last year, given that opportunity, and was he able to do it? By God, he was able to do it, Will Shane Burgos be one of them guys? Now, there's also the thing as well, that with the PFL these days, it's getting so strong that even if you do have the ability to do it, you might necessarily do it because of how good the opposite fighters are. Like, if you look at this fight, to me, it's a one that is going to be fought out for the most part, I would think, on the feet. I think, look, both guys are well able to fight in the ground. Both guys are well-rounded mixed martial artists. But I think that if you look at an Aubin-Mercier and you look at especially his PFL outings last year, what made him win that tournament, and I fully believe this, is his ability to just control the fight. He was way better, and anyone almost in the whole of the PFL, and I'd have to go through maybe all of it again, but his ability to control the fight on the feet was, I think, far and away above everyone else. It really was last year, and it really stood out, right? Whereas you're talking about Shane Burgos, and what he makes him a very good fighter, I think, is his ability to win while maybe losing a bit of control, while being like, now he's been in there and he's got knocked out by the likes of Barboza as well and lost to Josh Emmett and things in the middle of all of that. But, I think as someone who's not maybe the biggest finisher in the world, I'm not the biggest knockout artist in the world, but can hit and can knock you out. I think he has developed a real good game. His nickname is Hurricane, and we know why. We know why Dana White wanted to keep him, because he is an exciting fighter. So you meet a guy who's achieved his achieved what he's great at through being exciting, and another guy who's achieved what he's great at through control. Now, not to say that control isn't exciting or the way he fights isn't exciting, but it's different than Shane Burgos. And I find it very hard. You look at the odds, and I think the odds are just about right. Now, people were giving out to me last week as well by saying the odds are good and then picking someone else. I tend to do that. So what I'll do at the end is I'll go through all the fights and I'll give my pick, right? So I'll do that at the end. And now, my pick to win the fight might not necessarily be the same as my betting pick, because, if I pick someone to win the fight and they're minus 600 and someone else is like, well, I think they have a good chance and they're plus 400, then that might be my betting pick, okay? Are we okay with that? The comment section, don't come mad at me now for that, okay? My betting pick and my actual pick for the fight might be slightly different, so we'll get to that. And feel free to keep sending me comments. I love them. They're the best, and I'll always bring them back at you. But that's not necessarily the case here. Here, I do think the betting pick is the pick. I think Aubin-Mercier minus 165 is a good pick. I do think he will win. But having said that, if Burgos is mad up for this, if this suits him, we won't know until the fight is on. If this suits him, it could be a whole different story, and it could be very, very exciting too for Burgos and for Burgos fans, and for the PFL in general. And as I should have mentioned at the start, it's on obviously in April 14th this weekend. So on Friday night, if you're in watching this, it's on ESPN, ESPN Plus over America, and on DAZN as well here in Ireland. So that to me is the standout fight. But we have some other good fights on this card as well. Sadibou and Jarrah Al-Silawi, I will get to next. Al-Silawi is a guy that I have known about for a long time. He's 18-4, and he's fought for ages and ages and ages. Since back in 2013. I remember him fighting on a Cage Warriors card in, I think it was out in Jordan or somewhere like that. He's fought Mohammed Fakardin, who we saw, or who we were due to see fighting there. Did we see him? I'm mad. My brain is bad. Fought him a few times. Fighting Carl Booth back in the day in Cage Warriors, and fighting a lot in Brave over down through the years, and then obviously coming into the PFL over the last year. He fought 3 times last year, beat Gleason Thibault, beat Michael Lilly, and then ended up losing to Mohamed Umalatov, who we will talk about here in a minute as well, who is a very, very good fighter. And then his opponent, Sadibou, well, what a run he went on last year. I remember picking him out early on to say, okay, this guy could cause a few people trouble. Now, maybe I didn't think he could go as far as he did, and as far as the championship, but he did, and he very much deserved it by the results he had, without a shadow of a doubt. Beating Danilo Taylor in the finale, beating Carlos Leal Miranda, beating Rory McDonald, as well as beating Al-Silawi in the first round of the PFL from last year. And obviously, he was there the year before as well. Took a few losses, and he'd been there for a good few years. Has lost, Magomedkerimov, had a draw with Ray Cooper a few years ago. So a guy who really earned it and really deserved it, making his PFL debut back in 2018. So it's a good fight. I think you look at someone like C and look at the ability he has to use his size. He's 6'3", he's a tall 6'3", 5'11" for Al-Silawi. I think his ability to control as well is a big thing for him. And I I was thinking who's the one up there with Aubin-Mercier with the ability to control. Well, I think he's probably up there in that realm as well. See, because the job he did against Rory. It was a close fight, but he controlled it very well. He controlled that fight really, really well. And that's what I think he'll be looking to do against Al-Silawi as well here. He's good on the ground, is Al-Silawi. He has knockout power as well. We saw the first, he got the big knockout with the knee for his first fight of last year. And got a few knockouts as well on his way in the couple of years before that. Over in Brevis, he was on his way to the PFL. So, the betting odds I think are very interesting on this one because C is only a -175 favourite. Al-Silawi is +145. Now, not to go straight in here and go maybe Al-Silawi the betting price and see to win the fight here, but possibly it is that. Now, maybe I'll go with C for both of them here, to be honest. I think it'll be a close fight. This is one of the ones, if I was to give a bet, it'd probably be to go by decision. We'll see maybe later in the week when the props come out. The props for PFL are always out very late in the week, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Wait and see. How'd you get it? But it's a very interesting fight. I'm just, like, as someone who's seen Al-Silawi around for a long time, waited for him to get to this level. Last year, I don't think he produced what he can produce. And if he can do it, this year, I think we could see a whole different fighter. So I'm looking forward to, that's what the main part of looking forward to seeing that one, I think. Next fight I want to talk about is Magomedkerimov against Bin Egli. Here, Bin is 35 years old, fighting out of America. And, this is his PFL debut. Over the last few years, he has kind of had a bitty enough sort of record. Won his last two, lost the two before that, won his last two, lost one before that. He's been in there with some good guys. Nick Brown, who's doing good stuff over at in Bellator at the moment. But a guy who has been around for a long time and has won a lot of fights, been around since 2013 and deserves his spot here. He's very good on the ground, has won lots of fights by submission. His last 4 wins in a row have all been by submission. He's guillotine chokes, rear naked chokes, and everything like that in there. But when you go in there against someone like Magomedkerimov, you're going to need all of that. He can knock you out, Magomed. He can submit you. He can decision you. He can do whatever needs be. He's only lost in the last, how many years? 8 years has been that one against Ray Cooper, where he got caught in the third round of that. Otherwise, it's been easy for him, really, beating Gleason Thibault, Dilano Taylor, Sadibou C, Curtis Melinder, Chris Curtis a couple of times, John Howard, Ray Cooper before that as well. He's just an absolute beast of a fighter. He hits hard. If you survive being hit hard, he will destroy you on the ground. He's very good there. He throws good kicks. He has a lot of good takedown defense, good strike in defense. The one thing that Ray Cooper maybe showed up in that one fight is that if you stick in there against him, maybe you can beat him for pace. If you have maybe the better gas tank, maybe that. I don't think it's necessarily an issue, but like if you're tough enough to actually stay in there with him, you can do that. Is Bin that guy? Haven't watched a bit of him. I would say probably not. And I think the betting odds reflect that -900 for Magomedkerimov, Egli +600, and even at that price, I wouldn't be betting on Bin. Magomedkerimov -900, trying to an accumulator there or something like that. We have Danilo Taylor and Magomed Umalatov which is a very, very, very good fight. The PFL have done a good job this year, at putting on fights early that we're really, really, really want to see. Like they did it with Wilkinson and Santos. I think the Will Fleury fight was a good one to put on at that stage as well. All the fights I've mentioned so far would fit that bracket for me as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of them. It'll be an interesting for Magomed Umalatov here, 12-0, 10 knockouts. And that really says it all. I mentioned earlier I'm waiting for Al-Silawi to come out with a good win. But sure, last year, what happened to him? He got knocked out in the first round against Umalatov, and many people have. He knocked out Leandro Silva. Sorry, he decisioned Leandro Silva, knocked out Kyron Bowen. in his 3 PFL fights so far. You know, he's fighting in EFC and other places before that, but this guy is an absolute beast. And like, I don't think many people would have. I don't think many people would pick against him winning everything if he can stay healthy. If, you know, I'm sure, you know, the Russian fighters with visa issues and stuff were a big problem, and that's why he's supposed to fight Rory McDonald last year, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't able to get the visa, and that bout was cancelled. I think the same thing with Ray Cooper. He was supposed to fight him. Fight didn't end up happening. So if he can get over all of those issues and, you know, just have fights, he is going to be a problem here for most of these lads. You know, he's going to be a real problem. And, you know, Dilano Taylor, 10-3, he's a very good fighter, but like, you know, he beat Rory McDonald last year, but he lost to Magomedkerimov, lost to Sadibou. He has good wins over Joseph Moreno and a few more as well. But yeah, no, it's going to be tough for him. It's really is going to be tough for him to win this one. I just think the well-roundedness is going to be the issue here. I think Umalatov at -400 is probably a good price at that, with Taylor at +300. Like, is Taylor going to be able to get to him with a big shot? Probably not. Is he going to be able to win a wrestling battle? Definitely not, I don't think. Is he going to be able to win on the ground? I don't think so either. So Umalatov is definitely going to have to be the favourite in that one for me. Let's talk about Natan Schulte against Stevie Ray. Very interesting fight, I think. And Natan Schulte is -360. Stevie Ray is +285. I'll probably lean Natan Schulte at the price and to win the fight as well. But I said it earlier on about Stevie Ray and the kind of the fire he's had to come through in his career in general, but also last year to get to where he got. And that really helps a guy. It really does help a guy. Natan Schulte, on the other side of it, then had it all his own way for most of his career, you know, winning the PFL championships, beating the likes of Chris Wade, beating the likes of Jason High, Ahmed, Aliyah, Ramsey, Najim, like Rabzabov, you know, until he came unstuck, I suppose, against Martin Held in 2021, but came back and beat him then last year again, beat Jeremy Stevens. The loss to Aubin-Mercier, I suppose, was the big one, but he is just such a well-rounded and good fighter. You know, his wrestling ability, his submission ability, and I think that's the key here, because like Stevie can box. If this fight's on the feet, right, Stevie Ray can box anyone out of there. Natan Schulte is a good boxer. I don't think he's maybe as good as Stevie Ray, but I don't think Schulte will let it get there. Now, Stevie's very good on the ground as well. He submitted Anthony Pettis, you know, and that's not an easy thing to do. We've seen, like, Anthony Pettis, I think, has more submission wins in the UFC than he has knockout wins, if I'm not mistaken. But Schulte, I think his ability to kind of shut down the attacks on the ground when he gets on top, especially, and his ability to get on top, is second to none. And I think he'll be looking for a big run here. You know, he's 31 years of age now. He's been fighting in the PFL for a long time. You know, even before that, he was, you know, fighting World Series of Fighting is Islam Mamedov back in 2017 and 2018. Obviously, the PFL came around, and he's been fighting there ever since. He's not a guy who will want to give up his spot. You know, I spoke about it last week with Rob Font in the UFC. He won't want to give up his spot, and I think a loss here and him maybe going out before the playoffs would be a big issue for him this year. So I think this is a massive fight for him. And, you know, you could say the same for Stevie Ray. If he doesn't get through this time, will he be there next year? I think that's a big issue for a lot of these fighters, considering the amount of talent that the PFL have invested in over the last while. So a huge fight there. You could say the same on lightweight as well for Raush Manfio and Alex Martinez. Both guys who, you know, I really like. I'll turn up and I'll watch one of their fights all the time. You know, the betting odds on this, Manfio +120, Martinez -150. A little bit surprising that for me, if I'm being honest. I thought Manfio would be favourite. Do you know what I'm going to go for Manfio on this one? Now, I suppose the reason for that is what happened last year, and we saw how good that Alex Martinez looked. He beat Clay Collard, beat Steve. Okay, that was a close one. I think a lot of people think maybe he didn't win that one, but very good fighter on the feet. His knockout power, and it's tough to get there because he fights out of that kind of karate style at times, whereas Manfio is a little bit more of maybe a boxing stylist, and maybe he'll find it hard to get to him, but I do think he will get to him. He can fight. He's probably a little bit more well-rounded in terms of if the fight is going to get to the ground, maybe he'll take it there. He's never won a fight by submission or anything like that now, so maybe to get the finish there might be a little bit different, but he beat Don Madge, who's a very good wrestler, has beat like Rob Zabov, who can wrestle well as well, and Clay Collard, who's a very good boxer. So to me, that's probably the fight I'm maybe most looking forward to on this card. A very, very, very good fight, but I will I'll go with Manfio on that one. Although I picked Martinez, I think, in all the fights last year because I just like him. But I like that. I like the odds there as the underdog on Manfio, so I will go for him on that one. So yeah, those are kind of the big main fights, I suppose, over the weekend. On that, a few more to run through. Here before we go. Clay Collard is back, as I said, at lightweight. He's fighting Yamato Nishikawa, who has a lot of fights in his career, nearly 30 fights. And he's only 20 years of age with 30 fights. My God, fighting out of Japan, and it's interesting to see how that'll work out for him, I suppose. He debuted back in 2016, lots of draws. I wonder, maybe we'll need a Sherdog report on some of those fights and if they were like normal MMA rules and all of that, so it's hard to know. But this is his, he fought a lot in Schulte over the last while. It's obviously a very respectable promotion, but coming over to the PFL now for the first time, let's see what he's going to be like. A lot of knockouts in his record, and he's fighting Clay Collard, who we know is a very talented boxer and a guy that you're always gonna wanna see. He's coming off, like his last fight was that Martinez split decision, so I'm sure he won't be happy with that as well after doing so well, I suppose, the year before, beating Julton Leatherback, beating Anthony Pettis, and we beat Jeremy Stevens last year as well, so it's a big one for him. So interesting to see what Nishikawa looks like, and interesting to see if he can, I suppose, meet the challenge of Clay Collard, who's the minus 255 favourite, plus 205 for Yamato. You'd have to go for Clay Collard in that, wouldn't you, at this stage of their careers? But it could be very different come Saturday morning when when we see the result of the fight. With Shane Mitchell against Nayib, Lopez, Miranda, who's 15-0 as well. Mitchell 13-4. Bruno Miranda 14-3 against Ahmed, Amir. I think a lot of, especially those two sort of fights there, it'll be interesting to see who can emerge, because there always seems to be like one guy who emerges who is, maybe like a Martinez kind of did, or maybe even like a C did, who's like, maybe you're looking at the top guys and you're thinking, okay, maybe they're fighting to be the opponents to get them there in the next round. That's not always the case. Like Lopez in that fight, minus 255, he is going to be the favourite over Shane Mitchell, plus 185, and Amir is plus 135 over Bruno Miranda, minus 165. Look, two close fights again. Miranda's been around for a while. You probably would pick Miranda going into to that one, but it's I suppose it's always, and even like one of the heavyweight fights actually been moved here as well. Denis Goltsov against Patrick Brady, and I was thinking about Brady last week. Like, could he be one of the guys who maybe emerges? And we'll see if he has the opportunity to do it here now in a tougher matchup, I think, than he was supposed to have. Minus 625 for Goltsov, and Brady plus 450. I would definitely go with Goltsov on that one, but I think someone definitely will emerge. One fight I'm massively looking forward to, and I have to talk a bit about this as well. David Zawada plus 195 against Carlos Leal Miranda, minus 245 as we speak. Obviously these will be updated as we go as well. Like Zawada, he's been around since God was a boy now, 18-7, you know, coming out of Germany. He's fought on Octagon, he's fought in the UFC for obviously a good while, fought on KSW with some very, very good wins there down through the years, you know, fought the likes of Boris Manakovsky, even in the UFC, fought Li Jingliang, beat Abubakar and Magomedov, fought Eviev. Lots of good wins, and beat Erkan Kartal last time in Octagon as well. So he's coming in here, I suppose, fresh and ready. Carlos Leal, on the other hand, then, you know, he's been 28 years of age, but obviously 21 fights as well. Being with the PFL now since the start of the 2022 season, after coming over from LFA, only losing to Sadibou C last year. Got the knockout in the first round and then 2 decision wins over Brown and Ray Cooper, which was a bit of a shock to a lot of people, but he's well able to fight. You know, he's absolutely well able to fight, and I think he... It's a relatively pick-up matchup. Maybe the betting doesn't decide there, but I just think Leal might... if the fight goes to the ground, if he can push him against the cage, like Zawada, a lot of the time, I think he does kind of win with experience, but against Miranda, that's going to be a bit tougher. So, yeah, it's an interesting one to look at it and see. And again, with a big win there, like David Zawada's coming in here, and if he does get a big win there, that plus 195 price we probably won't see in his next matchup. So we will refer back to that. Do you know what? I love watching the first round of PFL fights and then going into the second round, because we kind of get a sense of where people are in the PFL, and I suppose it's absolutely great to see, and then we can analyze it more as we go on. Right, let's we've run through, I think, all of the fights there. Let's run through the picks here and the odds that are up with my friends over in Best Fight Odds. Obviously, the Al-Silawi C fight, I'm going for C there at minus 175. Al-Silawi's plus 145. Magomedkerimov, as we said, minus 900 is a big favourite. Definitely going for him there over the plus 600. Bin Egli, Danilo Taylor, Umalatov. You have to go for Umalatov there at minus 400, plus 300 for Taylor. Schulte is minus 360, minus 360, plus 285 for Stevie Ray. Going for Natan there, but I would not rule out Stevie Ray at all. Carlos Leal at minus 245. I'll go for him there as well to beat Zawada. No one give out to me for not giving my picks this week. Denis Goltsov, minus 625. Like, Brady is a talented guy. I just think he's not ready for this level yet, especially not for the level of Goltsov, so you have to go for him there. Look, the price at heavyweight, plus 450. Yeah, but not really. Brandon Jenkins, Zach Jusola, very even one there, and another toss of a kind fight. You probably just about go for Jenkins there, based on a bit of experience as well. Minus 125 for him, minus 105. Aubin-Mercier then, minus 165 for Burgos, plus 135. I'm going for Aubin-Mercier there. Ahmed Amir is plus 135, minus 165 for Miranda. We'll go for Miranda. Martinez, I think this is the only underdog I'm going for maybe on this whole card, is it? I'm going for Raush Manfio at plus 120, minus 150. Do you know what? Let's go for Shane Mitchell. Maybe I said it opposite there. I'll go for Shane Mitchell to beat Lopez, plus 185. And Clay Collard and Nishikawa, Collard there, plus, minus 255. Yamato is plus 205. We'll go for Clay Collard there, but I'm unsure. I'm unsure of that one. You know, the PFL matchmakers are pretty good, and pretty good at picking out people from different parts of the world who we might know but are not bad fighters at all. So let's see on that one. All right, we will leave it there. Those are my picks. That's my preview, my predictions for PFL number 3 of 2023. I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.